Welcome Nerd Squad. My name is Amanda McKnight and I'm here to count down with you the top 10 supervillains who would be useless in a fight. There seems to be a great scale when it comes to villains and their levels of abilities. Some sit high on the scale of greatness, great mind, strong physique, most creative, and some sit very low. Maybe they have a gimmick or a device that they can use to do something, but either way, those who are less super when it comes to villainry are often the ones that are easily and swiftly defeated by heroes. Easily bested in a battle, shall we say. Today we are going to take a look at some of those villains and some of the reasons why they struggle so when it comes to finding success in their criminal careers. What are some of your favorite foolish villain plots and underpowered villains? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10. Polka Dot Man. This villain comes to us from DC, another Batman villain gone wrong. And get ready for a lot more Batman villains, cause he's just the beginning of some of the most useless. I'm not sure who would win between Batman and Spider-Man for most useless villains, but both heroes have their own pretty steep pile of terrible ones. Polka Dot Man, whose real name is Abner Krill, is a villain who uses a polka dot suit to cause his mayhem. He has no superpowers of his own, so he relies heavily on this suit. The suit allows Abner to remove the polka dots, which can change size and transform into a variety of different weapons. Where the suit came from is unknown. Did he make it? Find it? I'd like to think the latter, because while you may be thinking this suit sounds pretty useful, and sure, maybe it does, Abner can't really seem to repair it when it breaks. Apparently the upkeep on it is so expensive that he sometimes just can't afford it. So I assume it is some kind of alien tech that is ultimately just worn by a regular Joe, which means that he's somewhat useful in a fight, but if his outfit breaks, he is rendered useless. Number 9. The Kangaroo. I love when supervillains are recognized even in the comics as being weak, and that is precisely what happens with Frank Oliver, famed jumper, ashamed boxer, and Spider-Man villain. Frank grew up obsessed by kangaroos cause, you know, he's Australian. It feels like Marvel writers were locked up in a room when they came up with this villain, and they wouldn't be allowed to leave until they had a new villain for Spider-Man. What if he's Australian? And what makes him Australian? I don't know, Jim. I'm starving. I just gotta get out of here. I don't know, kangaroos? That's it. That's brilliant. We've got it. Needless to say, Frank is a former boxer who was fired after he seriously injured a fellow boxer during a match. And his quote unquote power is that he can jump really well and you know, higher than normal. Marvel admitted just how weak he was when they decided to give him cybernetic enhancements. The unfortunate thing for Frank is these enhancements just make him like jump better. Like really? Even these improvements would not stop him from leaping to his doom in the comics. Though the mantle was later adopted by another villain and he was later resurrected. Number 8. STILT Man. What's better than leaping somewhat high? Walking on stilts, of course. That's the premise behind this strange Marvel supervillain. Wilbur Day is a scientist who began his life of crime after stealing a coworker's design and using it to build a pair of armored stilt legs. Granted, his entire body is actually covered in metallic armor as well, and it is pretty strong. He even apparently managed to smash She-Hulk down through the street and into a subway tunnel one time during a fight. But being taller than other heroes doesn't mean you're automatically better than them, or that you're going to be helpful in a fight. For one thing, there's that whole knock the legs out from under him strategy, and 2, his armor apparently has weak spots which have been exposed in the comics before to easily take him down. Iron Man at one point even fought armor with armor by throwing one of Stilt Man's legs right back in his face after he decided to detach them so he could jettison away, and as a result he knocked Stilt Man out cold. Number 7. Fisherman. Any rendition of this supervillain is like a diabolical but less impressive Aquaman. As to be expected as well, he is an Aquaman villain. His Earth 1 rendition was just super into fishing, something Aquaman is not a huge fan of considering global issues of overfishing and given the fact that he is an ocean conservationist, which immediately put him at odds with the Fisherman in comics. So what can the Fisherman do to beat his nemesis Aquaman? Fish? And that's about it. Sure, he has a bunch of fancy lures, but so does my grandfather. And I don't think that's enough to allow him to take on Aquaman. I will say this, the New Earth version of him at least can breathe underwater and attempts to pull off criminal heists using the ocean and the creatures within it, but still, that seems to be his main power, and even then, he is still easily thwarted. Obviously, this villain has been deemed so useless that he hasn't even really cropped up in the New 52 or Rebirth. Number 6. Big Wheel. Ultimately a villain that could be very terrifying if he could actually steer the device that he uses to terrorize people with. The Big Wheel is a Spider-Man villain who often gets poked fun at, namely because his device is just so ridiculous. Big Wheel is actually Jackson Wheel, who unfortunately came up with the idea to have a device built by the Tinkerer based around his own name. And so he got a giant, uncontrollable wheel. Spider-Man dodges him easily in a fight, and Wheel usually meets his demise through being unable to break and falling off the edge of things. Number 5. Crazy Quilt. I have to applaud this DC villain for being a supervillain with a disability, something we don't see as often as not. Still, his being a diverse supervillain was not enough for him to be saved from being turned into a not so strong supervillain by DC writers. Paul Decker was blinded by a gunshot while being captured during a robbery. He was a former painter turned thief. While in prison, he volunteered for an experimental procedure to help him regain his vision. This worked, but only partially. Paul could now see, but he could only see crazy, bright, and blotchy colors, granting him limited and disoriented vision. Seeing the world this way eventually drove him insane, leading him to adopt the supervillain alias Crazy Quilt. He built a patchy, bright costume and a helmet that flashes blinding lights, among other things. His lack of sanity combined with his lack of powers and lack of true ingenuity when it comes to his gimmick make him an unfortunately easy villain to defeat. Not super useful. Number 4. Sportsmaster. Another villain who seems to be masterful at getting away is Sportsmaster. Not so masterful at fighting though. Not even masterful really at playing sports. Lawrence Kroc is a DC villain who is known for tangling with Green Lantern. He used to be a professional athlete, and although he did have skills, he always took things too far and put winning above everything else. Becoming known for his cheating, he was eventually banned from all sports after severely injuring an opponent on the field. And once his sports career was over, he decided to turn to a life of crime. So interesting that people fail in their careers and immediately deflect to this. Crime ain't that easy, you know. Finding another job might be your best option, cause not everyone can pull this off. Case in point, old Sportsmaster here. Sportsmaster disguises himself and fights with, well, sports equipment. So you can imagine how successful his career must be. One of his signature go-tos in a fight is to escape by faking his death. Now, that's no way to win a fight. You'll survive though, so that's a plus I guess. Number 3. Kite Man. In his original incarnation, this supervillain was pretty useless. Even within his newer incarnation, he's pretty useless. Chuck Brown fights with just what you think he fights with, kites. And just as you'd expect, he is handily defeated every time he pops up in the comics. I feel like a big downfall of some of these gimmicky supervillains is that they get too attached to their gimmick. For some reason, writers keep bringing the DC villain back as well. He often tussles with Batman and was at least given a cooler hang glider to fly around in on, but still Batman manages to out hang glide him. In New 52, he was given a tragic backstory, wherein his son ended up murdered by the Riddler, who poisoned Charles Jr.'s kite string that he held onto. Heartbreaking. What's even more heartbreaking is they gave him this sad story and still no cool way to avenge it. How unfortunate. Number 2. White Rabbit. I'm talking about Jaina Hudson this time, Batman's nemesis from DC. Her powers are neat, but not really useful if you're looking to battle someone. Distract them? Maybe. But that's not really how you win a fight or are useful in a fight. She might be able to survive one though. Her powers give her slightly heightened speed and she is pretty good at escaping. In fact, as soon as a hero shows up, that's her usual go-to move, to just run away. Which gives you an idea as to how powerful she is. She does have a unique ability which allows her to split herself into 2 people, separating her White Rabbit persona and her civilian persona, Jaina Hudson. However, these 2 personas are quite different, so it isn't even like she can really use her civilian self to help her take on the good guys. Number 1. Condiment King. The Condiment King originally debuted in the Batman animated series, and was created with the intention of being comic relief. So You can imagine, for this reason alone, he's probably not going to be very helpful in a fight. In fact, in the episode he first appeared in, when confronted and chased by Batman, he actually slips on his own ketchup and almost tumbles to his death. You know you're no match for a hero when you are defeated by your own villainous devices. He was later revealed to have been a former comedian who was brainwashed by the Joker, so it's good to know that he isn't an actual villain who takes himself seriously. Still, the brainwashing messed him up, and he has since continued to try and take on heroes, jumping from the animated series to comics like fellow but ultimately more successful villain Harley Quinn. Thanks for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you got a few good chuckles out of some of these villains. They certainly are something else. Just goes to show you that a villain can also still be useless in a fight, but still great at entertaining us regardless. Are there any villains you feel we left out? Would you like to see us give you a part 2 of this list? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're on your way down there, be sure to give this list a share. Brighten a fellow nerd's day. Show us you love supervillains of all kinds by tapping that like, and show us you love us by hitting that subscribe and ringing that bell. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host, Amanda McKnight. Till next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.